Dyslexia is a brain-based disorder. What we like to do is kind of move the time window where we can identify dyslexia earlier. Earlier you do intervention, the better the chances are that it's successful.
Within the current educational framework, children often endure nearly 2 years of frustration and struggle before a reading test can formally diagnose dyslexia. For a family, this 2-year wait is far too long. Professor Urs Maurer's research seeks to advance this diagnostic window.
My name is Urs Maurer. I'm originally from Switzerland, and I've been in Hong Kong for, I guess, over 11 years. And in my research, I tried to find out what are the brain processes that underlie reading and dyslexia, and then kind of make use of this for early identification and early intervention.
From his doctoral roots at Zurich, Switzerland, to his postdoctoral research in New York, Professor Urs Maurer's academic journey spans half the globe. Now rooted at the Chinese University of Hong Kong, he leads a diverse team to decode the mysteries of dyslexia, safeguarding the joy of reading for every child.
I remember when I was a PhD student, I was sitting in a lab, so we had a child with the EEG presenting our experiment where we have words on the screen. The EEG is generated by neurons in the brain, but we can only measure it on the scalp. And then when you see the EEG, you see a lot of kind of tiny wiggles, which is the response of the brain that you're measuring. And then what you mostly see is basically just artifacts, like the child is blinking, which causes a huge signal in the EEG, or the child has tense muscles that causes artifacts or moves. And so you don't really see that much how the child responds to the words. Then there was this kind of tool that does an averaging. So each time we show a word, it creates an average of the EEG. And then after a few presentations, you could see how this event-related potential emerges. So you could see actually the response to the words that you present. I always found this very fascinating. During my PhD, so I was doing tests myself. So I was going to families' home and doing reading tests and cognitive tests. And there was one child that made a special impression. It was maybe also because the family lived in an area close to where I grew up. So I grew up in the countryside in Switzerland, and so that was in a nearby village. So I went there. The people were speaking a similar dialect. It just felt very familiar to me. And then the child, I did the reading test, and the child just had to read a few simple sentences, and it was so difficult for the child to read, not just slow, but sometimes just really reading a word, and there were long pauses, and the child kind of, his head turned red, and you realized how much the child is struggling. Still, we had to do the test to actually measure how good the child was reading. So this was something that kind of stayed with me. Do online assessment, and so that's something that could actually help children who are on a waiting list and cannot be tested. They could do the online assessment first, and then they get a risk score. And if we have online intervention, they could already do some intervention. The part with the EEG, kind of in the middle term, that might be a possibility. There are also people working on EEG systems that use dry electrodes that could be implemented in glasses, for example, and then collect EEG signals. So if that works, then we apply it more broadly. But I think at the moment that what's probably most promising are these kind of online assessments and online interventions. It's promising.